Remember this? Just the general gameplay of how to play Resource Rampage. Well, this is that, the general gameplay. If you haven't seen the wiki guide, click here, or link in the description. Anyway, on with the show! I apologize for these little metal bits being constantly there, but I'm using my dad's little mini tripod for stability. See if I just get a die out here. Nice little white die. Stability. It's good. Anyway, I will be using this white die and the central B column to demonstrate the map and all the classes and just all that whatnot. Starting us off here, we have the map info. These light green tiles represent grasslands, open fields, nothing to worry about, all 6 movements, and all that whatnot. Don't know why you want to move like that, but anyway. These darker green tiles are forest. They're fairly dense, so that means that's gonna be hard to hit and hard to be hit. So they give +1 to ranged and physical defense, and -1 to ranged and physical attack. These light gray tiles here represent rock. They're very hard to traverse over, meaning once you step on it, you lose 1 movement. So this guy has stepped on it, he can only move 3 more tiles. Thus for only 5 movements. However, let's imagine that this tile after the rock was also rock instead of forest. If you were to move, it'd still only be -5 because once you step on the rock, you've gotten used to traversing on the rock, you've only lose 1. It's fairly simple. Right here, these solid gray tiles, those are mountain, meaning you cannot traverse on these. They are no stops, and thus you have to go around. Now this brings us on to our next tile, these dark gray. This is cave. It's kind of hard to shoot in, so thus forth it gives +1 range defense and -1 range attack. Back here, the spawn tower. This is where, as do tell by the name, is where you spawn in any amount of troops, as long as you got the resources, of course. Now the thing about spawned in troops is that they cannot attack or move until next turn, which when that turn comes around, then it can move out of the spawn tower and off into the field. Another thing that a troop cannot do when within the spawn tower, say we have a laborer here knocking on the door, the troop that's within the spawn tower cannot attack from within the spawn tower, as I shall explain later. The last tile here is this pink tile known as the crystal node, the fuel of all creation. I'll just get out this laborer here because this is the only tile that applies to a specific class. The laborer can mine crystal if deployed near it. So, for example, it takes 3 turns to do so. So, for instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then he will have gathered 50 crystal. Where's the piece? Here it is. Nice big red circle to represent 50. Speaking of the laborer, he shall be the first class up to talk about. Now, the laborer, the laborer. He does all the mining, he does all the building, etc., etc., but he can defend himself. For instance, his melee, he can do a pickaxe swing, and for a 1-tile ranged attack, there we go, 1-tile range, I shall talk about range later, he can throw his little hammer. His first skill was previously mentioned, to be able to mine resources at the cost of 3 tile movements, 1, 2, 3. This would net him 50 crystal per 3 tile movements per 1 unit. But 1 unit can hold up to 200 crystal, represented by the dark red pieces. Now, the reason why we have this is that if a laborer were to get bumped off, he would drop those resources. Now, a laborer can carry up to 200 because they're meant to do all the dirty work, but the other classes can carry too. Like for instance, the knight, ranger, and mage. Hold on, let me get them all at 1. Each one can carry up to, 50 crystal. And the scout, who is meant to be lightweight, let me just get these guys out of the way. The scout, who is meant to be lightweight, can only carry 25 crystal, represented by the light red. So it's best to have your laborers well defended, and to be sure to have plenty of them to gathering one resource. Like for example, let's get the numbers up right. Let's see here. Yep. 3 scouts at the entrance. Why not? 6 knights in the cave. Pretty well defended from that angle, and a mage, and six laborers. So that means for 3 tile movements, you can net yourself a nice profit, and in 1 turn, you can net yourself up to 600 crystal. Now, the laborer's next skill is so extensive that it's got its own page in the guide booklet. But if you have 2 laborers in a little pod, you can construct a tower. Like for instance, we set this guy out here, and now he started constructing a tower represented by the light brown piece. Now, with only 2 units, it would take up to 20 moves. That's a big 2-0. Meaning it would take quite a few turns for just 2 to get done. However, with 6, it would take much less, because for every 1 troop, it takes 3 less turns, thus getting it done within the next few turns. Once the tower is completed, though, you can trade out that light brown piece for a nice solid brown piece, and that shall represent your fully constructed tower. Now the laborer can go off and do his own business. Get you out of here. And in the tower, you can deploy either archers or mages to do their really nice ranged attacks. However, you can only deploy up to 4 of them. See, 4 archers, 4 mages. Now, towers can be constructed anywhere, except, well, obviously in caves on the top of the heart crystals and on mountains. But the thing about towers is, they themselves give their own buffs. If I pull out the little booklet here, they receive 4+ range defense and 4 tile range for ranged attacks. Camera, can you focus, please? No? Well, now it's back to focus on this. They can be placed everywhere except in spawn towers. I forgot to mention that because, well, they cannot attack within the spawn towers. I forgot to mention that. I shall repeat myself. But when placed anywhere, like for instance in the forest, they receive no buffs and all debuffs. So if this tower deployed in the forest, they receive the negatives of the forest, but no positives of the forest. Thereby, you might want to think about where you place your towers. Well, this is what happens. Just damn brakes. Anyway, with that calamity out of the way, let's move on to the scout, the green piece. Sorry for my shaky hand cam. I can't use my stand anymore. Anyway, with his few daggers, the scout can perform a stab at a melee range or a dagger throw at a 1-tile range. I'll get more into range later with the archer, because I figured that'd be more suited with the archer. Anyway, the scout's first ability is Mad Dash, whereas with a normal unit, it would be able to move 6 tiles. 6. With the scout's Mad Dash, he can go 6 and then 6 more, doubling his effective movement range all the way to the next all the way over to the next section of map. However, during this, he cannot attack. For the scout's next skill, he works together with an archer within a 4-block range to attack a long-distance enemy that is within 10 tiles of the scout, called Archer or Scout's Aid, depending on whose side you're reading from. So it helps the archer shoot all the way out here using these two, using the scout's little sextant thing to help angulate the shot, if angulate's even a real word. Anyway, for every 3 tiles outside the archer's range, that is -1 attack. So, for example, since the archer's range is 4, let's see, that's a cluster 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, That's about 2 points. That's about 2 damage off the archer's shot. So instead of the archer's damage doing 5, it'll instead do 3. Speaking of the archer, he shall be the next class up for discussion. With this nice little blue piece, I did decide to go for the white. Anyway, the archer's not meant for up close and personal combat, but if need be, he can like take an arrow out and stab, or swing your bow at you for a blunt attack for only one physical attack. However, his best advantage comes with his range, a ranged attack of shooting an arrow up to 4 tile range away. And this is where I explain ranged attacks, because, well, I didn't want anything cheap to go and move, so units can only move on an X and Y axis. They can't do anything crazy like go diagonal and that's 1 tile movement. No. So for example, if this guy were here, he'd still be within the archer's range, because 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then bang, that's how it works. Pretty much, if they're able to move that distance to get within melee range, that's the distance it would take to hit a ranged attack. But in this example here now, the unit's in the forest, and they get that forest buff while the archer doesn't. Now, the archer's second skill is Scout's Aid, which was explained with the Scout's Archer's Aid, so we'll just only discuss the archer's first skill, the charge shot, represented by these blue circle pieces. Now, the charge shot, it can stack up to 3 times, meaning it would take a full turn to get a 3 charge shot. Now, with 1 charge, it will increase it by 1 range. See, now the archer has a 5 tile range and it would hit. And this can stack, meaning in order to hit a target 7 tiles away, the archer would need 3 charge shots. But the thing with having a bonus of having 3 charge shots, I kind of spoiled it with my stutter, is that you get a bonus of +1 ranged attack by having all 3 charges. Moving on from ranged combat to melee combat, we have here the knight, represented by this nice red die. The knight is a melee-only class, pretty much, with one knight being able to do 5 physical damage with a good old slash of his sword. However, what the knight lacks in any form of ranged attack, he makes up for with his skills. For example, this first skill, called Charge, is where the knight rushes 2 tiles in one direction, as in no turning off, and when impact is made, as in when they're in melee range, for every 1 knight, that's 1 physical damage. So, yeah, 1 knight. However, for example, 6 knights, that would mean 6 physical damage. However, if it were a knight at this range doing a charge, not only would it make impact like that, but it would also push the enemy back a tile and pushing you forward. Also, this is pushing them. It would do 2 physical damage per 1 knight, and also push your enemy back, giving your team a fair pushed advantage. So, for example, 6 knights in a 1 tile charge like this would do 12 damage. And the thing about a charge is that it can be followed up. So let's say that this is 6 other knights. So let's say move up 1, move up 2, and, oh, sorry, my bad. It's a 3 tile range, move up 1, move up 2. You do the charge, doing 12 damage, and this would knock out a few. No, I did not put the right number down. If you couldn't tell already, I'm editing this. And if that were left, since they have 2 tile movements left, they would be able to do an attack and take them off the field. The knight's next skill is a toggleable skill using these blue circle pieces, simply called Shield Wall, and it's actually fairly simple itself. While the Shield Wall is active, they gain +2 physical defense and +3 ranged defense, but they lose 2 tile movements, reducing them to only 4. So while Shield Wall is active, only 4 tile movements. This next and last skill of the knight requires these orange and purple circles, and the skill is called Warrior's Cry. This skill has a 2-night minimum, and pretty much what it does is when activated, hold on, let me just quickly rotate this mage down to 1, is that for every friendly player within a 4-tile radius, including the knight, they get the buff of the Warrior's Cry, and for every enemy within a 4-tile radius receives the negative of the Warrior's Cry. Now these two, they gain +1 to all stats. Those two, they gain -1 to all stats. And for every 2 in a party, for example, now that there's 4, the range increases by 1 tile. And to demonstrate again, 6, and then +1 range, +1 range, +1 range. That's how Warrior's Cry works. Last but certainly not least of all the classes, we have the Mage, and this magenta dye. The Mage, as the title presumes, is the only class in this game to wield magic, which is a fairly deadly force. His only attack is an Arcane Bolt, which has a 3-tile range. His Fireball skill, which requires 2 mages to cast in the first place, has a 5-tile range, and is meant to destroy a tower and kill the units within it. Although I'd find it hard to get a mage in that close to a tower with units in it in the first place. And the mage's second skill is the ability to summon troops at his location, although it takes 3 mages just to summon in 1 troop at double the cost. I'd highly recommend only using this in case of emergency, I guess. In fact, for example, it takes 6 mages just to summon in, what, 2 archers? Yeah, definitely in case of emergency. Anyway, that about sums everything up for my game Resource Rampage. My wiki will be put in the description of this video too, and you can refer to the wiki guide for help getting there. And just any further questions, refer to my wiki or leave a comment down below and maybe I'll answer it. Anyway, sorry for the mess in the background, but that's been me and my game, and I guess I'll see you around for the next time.